Okay, just a moment here, please. And let me pop out the chat. And hello. Welcome. And yes, this morning I didn't even get to finish the sentence. As you can see. Yes, this weekend, this show, I will be doing a Harpy for a patron. And for those who are here after the fact, like, subscribe, bell icon, and Any Cubic Photon does amazing stuff. And this is Carlton. Carlton? Hey, little buddy. What are you doing? You little fuzz bucket. Yeah, you. What? Anyway, today we're doing a Harpy for a patron. That patron should be in here soon. And when he is, we'll be able to get started on her. Isn't that right? Would you agree? Yes. Yes, little buddy. Alright, down you go. No, no, no. 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 No, little buddy. I gotta put you down. There. Go on. Ah, and here is our patron. Welcome. That was Carlton just then. This is Shinju. The figure. Now, there's a couple ways we could go about starting off this figure. And I'm going to do one that'll be a bit more instructive because I don't do it often enough anymore. And it'll be a method by which I can then make other Harpy type critters in the future. Okay, yeah, and okay, he's over there, never mind. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to demonstrate how to make the blend shapes that I use on the figures that I use. So the first things first, let's go ahead. And here's Daz Studio. Now, Daz Studio does have included geometry. I mean, it's got, a basic male figure that is, well, to be honest, much too large in dimensions and much too high poly to really sculpt on fun-wise. And it's got actual... Oh, come on. It's got actual human proportions. This is also copyrighted. This mesh is copyright and patent to Daz 3D. So we don't use it. Instead, what I did was I created my own base meshes that have the proportions of an actual miniature. Looks kind of cartoony, but it's my actual own work and own geometry, so I can do whatever I want with it. And one of the things that we're going to be doing with this figure, we're going to be changing the legs to be more Harpy-like. Because if I remember correctly, you wanted her to have like the bird-like legs, right? Yeah. Okay, so no, Ralph. I've got a third cat, Ralph, who's wanting to get up here, and no, Ralph, no, no. You can tell him apart from Carlton because he has a red collar. No, Ralph. Get going. Shoo, little buddy. Alright, now what I'm doing here is I'm preparing the legs to be turned into the bird legs. So, in the process, we are making it a bit, yeah. Okay, so we have that leg in the right position. We're now going to symmetry, right to left, rotation, translation, and scale. Oh. Oh, I see. I didn't do the toe because I forgot to. Alright. Negative 41.42. Negative 41.42. 25.49. Negative 25.49. Now Control D to drop front view. And okay. That's a problem. There we go. That's nice and symmetrical. And all we're going to do is we're going to turn the legs into bird legs. So we're going to memorize that as bird leg. So we make sure we have this mesh resolution set down to base, file, export, and now Patreon Minis new folder, Harpy, and I'm making another new folder called blend shape. Harpy legs. Okay, now the way this is going to work, this is the raw level of the geometry. There's no subdivision involved. These are the actual polygons for the female figure. You'll notice that there's a higher density in the face than there is on the torso, and a slightly higher density at the elbows and at the knees. Now, we're going to go ahead and go back to texture shaded, and we're going to go open ZBrush. I'm going to hide that. And we need to rearrange its position on my screen. Okay, now we're going to import Sculpt Minis, Patreon Minis, new, Harpy, blend shape, Harpy legs. And what we're going to do here is we're going to see if, oops, document, new document, I forgot to hit edit. Okay. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to snake hook. The reason we're going to snake hook is we're going to pull out the toes. We're hitting X so that everything will be symmetrical. Going to zoom in, shrink this down quite a lot. And then we're going to take the hit shift so that we're going into smoothing, and we're going to reduce that intensity quite a lot because this is very low. We're going to smooth here so that it pulls that foot up and it's not bent as badly. We're not going to do that at the bottom. Now we have to make 3 toes, so I'm going to grab here, what? No, that's turn off the sculptress. We don't need sculptress mode. Okay, it looks mediocre, but the truth is this will actually look a lot better once it's subdivided and reduced down. Now, I'm going to pull this up. Frame out. Okay, turn off X because apparently there's a significant lack of symmetry between them. But yeah, there we go. Now, we're going to export back to Harpy legs. Yes. Come back over here. Now we're going to go ahead and turn it back on subdivided. And edit figure 0 figure. Bing. Then we come over here and you'll notice that there's this. Choose more files and we go to Patreon Minis, new, Harpy, blend shape, Harpy legs. And we want to make sure that we have, let's give it a little bit more detail, 0001. Property group will go into races. And accept. Okay, now when we go to races, we have Harpy legs here. We're going to change the parameter so it has a minimum of 0. We don't want to see what negative Harpy legs do. But then we draw this, and the whole thing rises up. And we've got the basic shape for the feet. We'll be drawing out actual talons and making the toes thicker in a little bit. Wait a minute. Shapes. Alright, that didn't work. Okay, so delete selected property. And then we're going to delete her. File, new. Content library. And reload her. Frame. There's now, we're going to try and reload it. Choose more files. Harpy legs. We forgot to turn on reverse deformations. And then races. Accept. Okay. Now, parameter settings. Minimum 0. There we go. As you notice, her chest doesn't alter. Now, one thing we do have to do, though, is when we go and look at the bones don't fit where her legs are. We need them to. And we need to go over here to property hierarchy and be ready for this. Go to parameters. Okay, Harpy legs is right here. So what we're going to do, we're going to undo edit mode. We go to bones, edit, adjust rigging to shape. Accept. And there, now the bones do fit. So what we do is we right click on Harpy legs, ERC freeze. You can see it's got all these different changes in here. We hit accept. Now when we go back to shapes or races and we reduce Harpy, you can see that the bones move with the figure now. And that's what we want it to do. So we're going to File, Save As, Support Asset, Morph Assets. Miniatures. Properties are going to be, we're going to click on Harpy Legs, Accept. And what that means is, from now on, whenever I open this program and I load in my female figure, one of the options will be Harpy Legs. So what do you think about that? Now, do you want her to have arms or wings with hands on it? Yeah, see that? Yeah, that's how I made, Dragonborn, Dwarf, Elf, Gnome, and Halfling. A Halfling with Harpy Legs. A Dragonborn with Harpy Legs could almost be, it's add a tail and it's a female lizard folk. Okay, so again, do you want to have the wings be part of her arm or have them be separate wings? No, you didn't see my taskbar. You saw a couple things. Separate wings would actually be a little bit easier to pose and sculpt. And then what kind of pose do you want her on? Is she perched on something? Is she standing and screeching? What is she doing? Anything you can imagine. I can put it into if a human being can take the pose, I can probably get this figure into that pose. Perching on something, standing and screeching. Well, singing, do you mean like, oh, or do you mean like, no? How about half buried in the dirt with her feet kicking up and the wings kind of fluttered because they face planted because they're wearing the heavy armor Largash wanted? Would you rather them be a performance or be like focusing their cry? Well, Largash, originally sirens were bird folk. Okay. So, what we're going to do... I have just realized something I forgot to do. And that continues in with what we were doing. I have a very, very basic set of wings. Right here. Doesn't look large enough to do anything because it's just a basic geo. But just to show you examples, what I can do is I can take these and make a morph to turn them into feathered wings, which is what I really need to do now. So we are going to import, and I believe I have it under Blend Shapes Wings. HD4X frame. And now while I'm sitting here, I can turn these into the actual wings. That'd make it easier for when it comes time to pose those wings. And this is going to take a lot of sculpting. But again, I can hit X and do both sides at once. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start off flat. And I'm going to grab the edges, pull them up. Let's make this a little bit bigger and a little bit larger focal shift. Grab the edges and pull them out like that. These are where the feathers are going to be. That's just the silhouette. Now we go in and we use slash tool, stroke, lazy mouse off, and reduce that quite a bit. And we're going to draw on the individual feathers, but first, clay buildup, alpha 1, and auto masking backface mask. What we're going to do is we're going to make the over surface kind of, well, let's shrink this down and increase the intensity quite a bit. And we're just going to kind of add in fluff. Okay. Now, we're going to do this kind of a very special. We're going to change the alpha to the heavy round. And we're going to kind of draw on and we're going to smooth out just a bit. And then yeah, I'm going to smooth that out quite a bit here. Let's see. This is just to give a basic shaping for where the feathers will be. You notice it affected both sides because of how I did it. This is going to be the hardest part of sculpting this figure, by the way, is doing this. Okay, now this is going to be a bit of some further feathers here. There won't be as many inner feathers on this side as there was on the back side. And then the rest of this will be done with the slash tool, because all we needed there was volume. Now we're going to start off adding in these kind of little puffed areas. Then we're going to come back in here. While I'm at it, I need to go ahead and peg face mask this too. Cut that out. I'm going to come down from here down to there. And then the advantage of doing wings as a completely separate piece that can be added on like I'm doing is that I can then use these wings again. I could use them as something from a multiple winged creature. You know, like a seraphim with its 6 wings. I firmly believe in the concept of work more on the back end, or on the front end, and you work less on the back end. A lot less. by making it something that can be replicatable. We're making something that will be a lot easier to refine and use again later. Now you'll notice it's getting a lot thinner by us doing this. That's why we added material. Let me smooth up top here. Let me go ahead. Now I'm going to frame out. We see we've got the basic shapes, but one thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and inflate the whole thing a little bit. First, let's go ahead and relax the grid. Okay, now we're going to inflate it slightly. There we go. Excellent. And now we're going to give it another relax. Then we're going to polish. We're going to Z-sub 100%. And we're going to make these feathers a bit flatter. So too much. Now, the reason we're making them flat is because, well, feathers are flat. Let's see what happens if we make this mouse a lot bigger. There we go. And there we have our basic wing feather patterns. That's what we need next. So, we're going to export this. Medium scale wing HD 4X. Save. Yes. Okay. Okay, see you in a few, Ernie. Emery. Okay. With these feathered wings, we're going to mesh resolution 4. Now we go choose more files. Blend shapes, wings, medium scale wing 40x. Subdivision. Yes. Built resolution 4.001. Reverse deformations, yes. And property group, create details. Accept. Okay. And now, bing, we've got our wings. Or at least base wings. Let's see if he's back yet. Okay, give me just a second here. Okay, so we are preparing to pose our Harpy, except there's still one more thing we got to do. And we got to make the tail for it. I'm actually probably going to go ahead and make the Harpy's wings a lot smaller too, because right now they're kind of long. So what we're going to do is wing tips and wing fingers we're going to make shorter. And we're also going to make, actually let's make everything shorter. Now, We're going to make a box. That. We're going to make it and making the basics for the Harpy. And let's go ahead and load it into DAZ Studio. Hide the wings real quick. File, import. We're going to import from the Patreon Minis, new Harpy tail base, obj, accept, frame, and we're going to parent it to, oh wait, it's open up the tail base obj to hip. There we go. Hide this, and then edit, object, geometry, convert to sub D. General mesh resolution 2, 3, 4. No, we need at least one more. 5. Okay, there we go. And file, export, tailbase obj. Okay, he's still not back yet, so we're going to go ahead and sculpt on that tail base. We're going to do pretty much the same thing we did with the wings. So we're going to start with the clay buildup brush. Bring that down about there. Actually, we need to start with the snake hook. And we're going to start dead center and pull it out. Then grab here. Actually, too big. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is our basic silhouette for this tail. And now we go back to clay buildup, and we're going to start off on the top side. Okay, now slash tool. 1, 2, 3. Let's drop that intensity down to 12. And here. Oh, not that one. That one. Here, yeah. Okay, and now we're gonna relax a little bit. Okay, and let's go ahead and emphasize this division here. We're gonna polish. And then we're going to inflate. Shrink here. No. Okay. Now we're going to frame out and export this. Base HD. Okay, welcome back. All I've managed to do while you were gone is... Oh, come on. I made a morph for the tail. I made a tail and made a morph for it. We're going to go ahead and, since you missed the first one, what I'm going to do is go back to Patreon Minis, new, Harpy, Tailbase HD. Now, when I go here, I go to morph subdivision, yes. Built resolution, 5. Delta tolerance 0.001. Always add in that third 0. Property group. Create. Details. Accept. Okay, now we go to details. Set tailbase to 0. And we have our tail. We also have our wings in place. So we have her wings and tail, although we do need to kind of embed the wings into the torso. Symmetry right to left. Translate it forward. There we go. And let's go up just a little bit. Yeah. And there we have her with wings and tail. And the talons. This is the basic unposed version of our Harpy. Obviously, the feathers on the wings and the tail will get a lot more detail when we actually get to sculpting. But this is all we really need for posing. Now, we know her upper body is going to be like this. Do you want her standing, crouching, or perched on something? And if on something, what? A rock, a tombstone, a small tree, you know. A rock perch. Okay, to do that, we're going back into 3D Studio Max. And what we're going to do is we're going to create the rock in here. And I'm going to start off by actually making the base the rock. To get that, we get a cylinder. And we're going to keyboard entry, radius. We're going to make it a typical 25, so 12.5 millimeter, height 3 millimeter. We want one height segment, 4 cap segments, and 16 sides. Create. This will double as her base, so we shrink down to about there, lower it to about there. Editable poly. We're going to add in one more side there. Select these and shrink them ever so slightly. That's for we're putting on the little rounded edge like we have on the standard bases I've been making. Now, let's loop. Let's bring it up to there. Ring and connect. And now select, shrink, extrude, negative 1.5, let's say, and then positive 1.5. But we're going to shrink it 98%. Or shrink it to 98%. Okay. Now, we select here and deselect here. 3 edges. Loop. Chamfer 0.001 with 2. So now we have the base. Well, what we really need to do, we need to make sure that we have, we're going to shrink it just a little bit more to make it a bit more exaggerated, make it easier for the separation to be printed. Okay. Now we're going to inset 0.01 and then shrink it a bit. Actually, no, we need to edit. Undo inset. Okay. We need to shrink by 2 rows because that's how many rows we have here. Shrink, shrink. Inset. Let's bring it to about there. And then shrink. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull this out. Shrink. We're going to mound it over. Just a bit. Now, I'm going to delete that because we don't need it anymore. Edge spaces. No, I missed it. There we go. Loop. Okay. Now from here, we're going to use what's called an FFD box. What this will allow us to do is we can take these. Oh, no. We need more than 4. We need 5s. Actually, let's make it 6s. We're going to use this to give us a bit of shape to the rock. Collapse all. Then we're going to select these and we're going to add in noise. X, Y. And then we're going to slowly bring the scale down. Up. Gives us a more erratic shape. We're going to go ahead and collapse it. And then we're going to select specifically these 3 here. Because we want to kind of pull them out. They're a bit too deep in. Then we come up. And there's a couple up here we need to select and pull out. Pull it like that. Now, turn off edged faces, and we're going to mesh smooth it once, twice. We can see we need to move one other vertex. To be exact, we need to move that one. We're going to actually pull it down this way. And this one, a little bit. Okay. Now that's the general shape of the rock she'll be perched on. Go ahead and collapse. Well, let's undo that collapse because we don't want to do that yet. Instead, we want to take that edge, loop, and chamfer 3 tiers of 0.001. Because that'll make it extremely, flat. Mesh smooth 1, 2. Collapse all. File. Export selected. Harpy base. Now we're doing a lot of work on this end because the Harpies, well, they're not exactly known for wearing a lot of clothing. Now I'm not gonna have it be X-rated, no. But they're not. She's not gonna be wearing like a full barmaid's outfit or some nonsense like that. All right, so we're gonna import Harpy base. Geometry, subdivide until it's nice and smooth. Delete lower. Now what we're going to do is let's go to Lightbox, Brush, and we look for Mallet. And we're going to use the Mallet Fast. Make it kind of bigger and a little bit more intense. And we're just going to kind of skip over. Oh, that's way too intense. Reduce that intensity there. It's going to skip over like this. Just enough to kind of... No, we don't want it on an X. It's still too strong of a mallet, and we also don't want X on. Here we go. That's good. That's doing good. Just enough to give us a nice erratic, chaos that rock has. Then we're going to smooth it just a bit. Just come over a brief pass over with the smooth brush. Yeah, there we go. That's why it wasn't doing so well. And, well, let's go back to Lightbox. Under Brush. One of the things that I've got from Orb is Orb Rock Noise. And just running over it a couple times. And we have a rocky texture. Now we need to invert the thing and make it a little bit chubbier, because we lost a lot of mass doing what we just did. And take a look. We have a nice little rock for her to be standing on. But we need to move it slightly, because that doesn't quite look right. So, I'm going to make this mouse a bit bigger. Kind of pull it back. There we go. Now, we're going to standard brush. We're going to make sure that the stroke laser mouse is off and that the intensity is down a bit. We're going to pull out this, first backface mask, then we're going to pull out this side here because it was not quite working for us, and then just a brief pass over. There we go. Now, it's currently at 1.5 million polygons, so we're going to Dynamesh at 512. It gives us to 300,000. Z plugin, Decimation Master, 35K. And that's what we're going to do then, bring it in to have her stand on in Daz Studio. Now, export Harpy base, yes. And we go to Daz Studio. And we file, import, Harpy base, accept. And that is the base she's going to be standing on right there. Now, from the look of it, her right leg is going to be perched on the thing. So, we're going to Y translate. Oh, I forgot to parent the wings to her hips. To her chest, rather. There we go. The wings are now parented to her chest. So when I grab her hip and drag up, yeah, there we go. Now, we're going to rotate it a little bit that way. And bend it back a bit like that. Now, this leg will come out to the side. Bend. And then bend again that way. I'm going to twist it there. Alright, now let me go ahead and take that hip and pin it. So I can come back to here. Pin that there. Actually, let's then take that foot and pin it. Actually, let's unpin everything. Then we take the pin translation, pin rotation, grab the hip, and we're going to kind of go up and back a bit. And we're going to bend this leg forward, twist, bend, bend, and then twist it like that. And bend this forward. Actually, let's go ahead and unpin all, and let's pin that hip again. Grab the toe and kind of pull it back a bit like that. There we go. That'll do. Now we bend it forward at the chest. Just a little bit, and side to side a little bit. Yeah. Actually, it's bend the chest back a little. Bend the abdomen forward. And looking at it, I think we need to kind of There we go. Now we're going to lean the neck forward also. And then tilt the head back. Now we're going to open the mouth. We're going to grab the eyebrows. We're going to scale them. Well, because we want them to be unusually... we don't want to necessarily be pretty. Now we're going to bend. And we're going to... Symmetry, right to left. There we go. And now we just got to pose the arms. Then it'll be time to do the actual sculpting. Also, this, we can probably go ahead and pull it up this way a little. Yeah. Then we'll pose the wings and get into the sculpting. Largosh, every sculpt I make in the patron sculpts go to the Patreon file vault. Please don't try to undermine me on my own broadcast. Suggestions like this, no, not in the broadcast. Okay. Actually, I need to go ahead and shrink that hand. I'm going to do the same thing with the other hand. Her hands are too big, and we're just going to go ahead and scale them down a bit. Okay, now. And twist. Okay. Now, symmetry, right to left. Let's take... Okay. And then it'll be the wing pose next. Alright. What we're going to do is we're going to try to point out the fact that the tail is going that way. We want the wings to come around like that. So this one, we're going to bend that way, and bend that way. Okay, no, let's go ahead and make it bend backwards, not. There we go. How's that for the base pose? Emery? Is Emery how you pronounce your name? Okay. It is 2:15. What's going to happen is we're going to start exporting this in pieces so that we can take the ZBrush and sculpt on the final figure. That will include things like adding the feather detailing and adding on a bit of clothing. Actually, no, let's go ahead and do one other piece. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add on from here what's called the Z drapery. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be moving this into her, give her like a loincloth after we shrink it quite a bit. We're going to Alright, so we're going to go ahead, expand from selected, select every single bit of this. We're going to make it a little bit wider and a lot shorter. Alright, so now, actually let's make it also a little bit thicker. Not a lot, but a little bit. Okay. Now, we're going to move this in towards where the hips are. And then we're going to look at the rotation of the hip. Bend negative 20.16. Bend negative 20.16. Twist is on the hip, Harpy hip, is 10.27. 10.27. And then the hip side to side is negative 13.02. That's 166.98. And that will get that roughly equal to where the hip is. But that just gives us to where the hip is. This is actually a hip. So let's we're going to add on a belt for her later. Then we go to drapery 2. We're going to twist 2 and 3. And from here to there. We're going to twist a little bit more. We're going to bend down. Actually, let's go ahead. We're going to side to side these and bend them down a bit more. There. We have what will be her little waistcloth there. Now, I'm taking this out of my lap for a second. We're going to have to make each of these accessible separately. So for example, we need to be able to access the wings, the tail, the base, and the drapes. So that we can, what we do is we turn them all off because this program exports what's visible. File, export, folder, figure, Harpy body. I'll be honest, I'm not certain I'll be having it finished by the end of the show. I'll get as much done as I can. I do not have an 8 p.m. show scheduled, so what I will do is we will make it the part 2 of the Harpy. File, export, Harpy wings, accept. File, export, Harpy tail. Accept. File, export, Harpy face. Accept. File, export, Harpy drapes. Accept. That's okay. Like I said, I'm going to try to get as much done as possible. All right, we're going to start off. We're going to import the body. And then we're going to start appending the extras. Append. Import wings. Append. Import tail. Append. Import drapes. And import base. Now let's go ahead and there we go. This is what it's currently at. If anyone wants to take a screenshot or whatever. Gonna go ahead and hide everything but the female form. Because one of the things that we have to do is we have to hide the hands. and arms that we have clear shot to the neck and the head. Okay, we're going to move. Oh, we're also turning off X. Okay, making sure X is off. Shrink this down. Shrink that. We're going to grab and we're going to kind of pull the neck straight. Just at this muscle. We are then going to hit smooth right there. And then inflate. Reduce the intensity right here. Okay. Now, the next big question is, how horrific do you want the face to be? You want it to be ugly, screamy? Want it to be pretty but angry? That sort of thing. Okay. Also, does she have hair, feathers, or is she bald? Hair would be nice. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start working on her head. Alright, one of the first things that we got to do is we go over to slash, make sure that we reduce that intensity quite a bit. And what we're doing is we're just basically going to try and reinforce the bottom of the nose. We're then going to use inflate subtract, and we're going to kind of reduce the side of the nose a bit. Add a little bit of the shaping of the nose, and then we're going to just kind of bring that over here, and then a little bit of smoothing. Well, that was way too strong. A little bit of smoothing here, just to kind of now move. I'm going to kind of pull this out a little bit. Shrink the mouse a bit and smooth out the inside of the mouth. The reason for that is because if we left that mouth that open with a humanoid head, it would rapidly become unprintable and almost certainly difficult to paint. And now we're going to use inflate to kind of very gently start inflating the inner mouth. We want there to be a division, but we don't want it to be a huge chunk. There. Now we go down here and smooth that. And then we're going to kind of pull up the mouth a little. Then we're going to slash add. And we're going to draw the top of the lip, make it a little bit sharper, and a little bit more outwardly going. Now we go back to inflate. We're going to kind of inflate the lip to make it a little bit chubbier, because you want the fleshier lip. Distinct, once again, a distinct lip. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to exaggerate cheekbones. And smooth out below cheekbone. There we go. Now I do think we need to make the chin a little bit more, or rather a little bit less extreme. So. There. Now what we do, we're going to go ahead, geometry, we're going to subdivide it. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to Dynamesh it 768. And we're going to add on the base so that we can see it, so we can tweak the feet and detail them. And now that we have enough geometry to work with, we can go ahead and go to the snake hook again and shrink it and draw out talons. Okay. And then we're also going to grab the back of the knee here. And make them into little. Now we go to inflate. And then we're going to start inflating the toes to really emphasize their okay. We can go back in and add bird-like scales later, along with refining the talon shape. I think right now what we need to do, we need to start working on the drapery. Let's see. Geometry. Dynamics 256. Deformation, relax, or polish. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to add on a belt. But it won't be rope, it'll be chain. Where was the chain? Yeah, that's good light box. Brush. Insert. Chains. Shrink it. Go to transparency. Come from here and come up this way. And a little small. Let's increase the size a little bit. Okay. Now. Let's worry about depth. Okay. No, 0. Now we're going to split unmasked parts. Now, okay, that's a scrub. Delete. All right, let's go with this one and shrink it so we can have a more refined path. Okay, now let's split unmasked parts. And here we go to move. I'm going to grab it and move it out to where it's visible. Okay, now we need to inflate it so it turns into something that's printable. Deformation, inflate, and there we go. Now, geometry, subdivide a couple times. There we go. We have our belt for the to explain why the drapery is hanging in place. Meanwhile, it is now quarter till, and yeah, there's not much else I can do right now. So we do need to reshape the breasts to give her hair, and then texture the bird-like legs, as well as possibly add in some feathered detailing on the thighs. Then we can go through and refine the feathers on the wings and tail. Okay. Bing. Alrighty. So that's for right now. Oh. No problem. Now, I need you to message me in the Discord. DM me your email address. Tonight, when I finish her, I will be sending you a copy of the OBJ file and STL file. Same geometry, just different formats, in case you want to play with it in some other program. And a render. You will be the only person with this Harpy for 1 week. Just you and me. And then next week, I'll be putting it up in the file vault. In fact, last week's sculpt, the Lucador Orc, is currently just now been added to the file vault. All right. So, do you have any questions about what I did today? What kind of, why I used, what techniques I used when making the feathers, which are, again, they're only half done. That's just a shaping for the feather. That's not the actual feather detail. Anything about what I did for the Harpy herself? Why I chose to do some of the things that I did? Ralph? Yeah. Yes. What? Meanwhile, I have an absolutely overly affectionate cat sitting on the back of my chair. Well, there's a lot where there's either not a lot of description available, or the only reference is very, very limited, or it's such an awkward critter that making something that looks like this look fearsome is difficult. And really and truly, most of those come from non-European sources because we're not used to picturing them, and there hasn't been a cajillion of altered viewpoints of it. You. Get down. Yes, come on. Come on, little buddy. There you go. Go. What are you wanting? Figures. Anyway. There's one I did some research on for something I was writing a while back called an Aiga Mucha. Its eyes are in its feet, and its mouth is in its stomach, and it has no skin. And it is just like this disgusting corpse-like thing that if it wants to see where it's going, it has to jump and do a handstand and kick its legs forward and see with its feet. But it can also control the weather. No, Ralph. Go. It can also control the weather. But other aspects of it in the description make it very not human. And just trying to picture that is kind of hard. Like, how would you reshape the foot to have an eyeball in it without just an eyeball? Like, would you have this large eyeball and a bulbous foot? It walks on the toes when it's not using its eyeballs to see. How would you redesign it to be more fearsome than just, goofy eye in the foot? Then there's, I said, ones that don't have a description. The bunyip. Bunyip. From Australia. Has no actual description. There's a lot of stories about them, but they all seem to assume that you know what a bunyip looks like. D&D has decided the bunyip is a seal-like monster. I've seen some that are based on a crocodile. You know, it's all sorts of weird things. What is a bunyip? Now, is it emery? Yeah, that's what you said. Yeah. Anyway, so one of the things I did is those wings and the overall geometry. I had made the geometry and rigged them well ahead of time. I've been using those. I've been using the figure for months, if not almost a year, and the wings I made about a month and a half ago. So I already had them ready. If I didn't, that would have taken a lot longer to create the wing, make it posable, then make the feathery morph, and then pose it and articulate it. So by doing things that are going to be done it's like object-oriented programming. If there's something you're going to be doing a lot of exactly the same, do it once and have a library for it. That whenever you need it, you can call it up. So, anyway, in about 5 hours, I will be back on to finish off the Harpy. This is still one of my favorite prints. Simple tweaks, look up Mesh Mixer. It's by the same people that make 3D Studio Max, but it's free. For complex tweaks, look at either Sculptress or Blender. Both are free. I'm gonna put the names in the chat real quick. Now, Mesh Mixer is minor things, like moving something slightly or putting things together or chopping them up. If you want to actually edit the figure, you want Blender or Sculptress. Like if there's a character like this, and you want to change the orb in his hand to a skull, that would be Sculptress or Blender. Unless you already have a hand holding a skull, in which case you can chop off the hand in Mesh Mixer, chop off everything but the hand on the other figure, and put it in place. But if you got to make something from scratch, or you want to just reshape something existing, Sculptress or Blender gives you slightly better results, and a lot faster and a lot easier. Okay, first of all, you'd be surprised on what can be done with FDM once you've got your machine fully tweaked. Might I ask what machine you have? Ender 3. The Ender 3 can produce amazing results. Now, if you mean from the purposes of support, a lot of times you can get some amazing results by changing the orientation. You can use a lot less supports. My classic, not classic, still relatively new. This is my paint practice figure. As you can see, this one hasn't been primed yet. Printing it on FDM, it'd probably be best to, first of all, I made this as easy to print on FDM as possible. That will need supports underneath the pommel, underneath the shield, but you get more detail in the face if you tilt it back slightly. The one thing you've got to watch out for is with FDM, if you don't have either the supports that the dissolving supports, or I think Cura has a thing where it makes a little bed on top of the supports, then it will have one side be messier than the other. Orientation is really not as important on FDM as it is on resin. But another thing to remember is, see how the sword goes like straight up well above his head? When printing an FDM, print a block about an inch away. It's about 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter and just a little bit taller than the figure itself. What that'll do is that as your head's printing, it'll move away and give that layer time to cool before coming back over. If you use minimum layer times, it'll sit there and stay heating on top, and it won't cool as well. Cooling towers are a godsend. Meanwhile, I recently picked up a miniature by Games Workshop and put it together so I can get an idea on what kind of detail they're getting in plastic nowadays. Oh, come on. And what I've noticed is, on the one hand, there are areas with extreme detail. You can't really see it in here, but like her belly area. And areas of smooth detail, like her cloth, and like her familiar. There's not a lot of surface detail on the familiar thing that's swimming out from behind her. So they are actually doing still a lot of like the temple area on this fractured statue is really smooth. And then you've got all of the various lines and details elsewhere. And that's two reasons. One, you've got broad, smooth areas that are easy to paint, and they're also easy to look at. They rest your eyes. That, large patches of smooth, your eyes will get drawn to the detail instead of being confused with a huge mass of a lot of detail everywhere, all over the place, and squiggly bits and no, large, smooth areas, and then extremely detailed areas. Your eye goes to the detail. Well, I'm looking for learning. I'm seeing how they're doing things, how they're now they're making it far too many pieces. This figure has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces. Oh, sorry, 12 pieces, not counting the base, for a single figure. 12. Really? Wow. That's ridiculous. No, Ralph. Shoo. Anyway, let me put this up. And I will be logging out now. I'm going to hold my hand up right about here. I'm going to count from 5 to 1. When I get to 1, I'm going to say something either goofy, pithy, or wise, or none of the above, and then go, and when I do, I'm going to log out. The reason I do this is because of the lag on YouTube. Okay, so to get this going, I'm going to go ahead, and that's going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I am exactly 10 subscriptions away from reaching 500 subscriptions. Wish me luck, guys.